All right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome into the Tuesday edition of the Gridiron Grubb Show podcast, however you want to call it. We are doing it again this week. So let's get it going. Let us get it started. So as we move into this, don't forget, follow at Gridiron Grubb on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube to the YouTube channel. There's going to be some great content coming out there. We're calling it the Inside the 10 segment. So it's going to be every game for the weekend that's forecasted, broke down within 10 minutes. So you can choose any game you want to see or any game you want to hear about. And you won't have to sit through a whole entire podcast and or episode to find the team you want to hear about. Don't forget, follow over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Get over to Apple Podcasts. Give a 5-star review. Come on now. Hook those 5-star reviews up. Don't forget to get them. I appreciate you. Now, moving into this week. Oh my goodness. So the big news that broke, and I don't like to get into stuff like this, obviously Urban Meyer, as you can see here on screen, or if you're listening to the podcast, maybe you haven't seen, but was found, well, not found, but seen and videoed at a club with a girl freaking in his lap. He didn't even return to the team or with the team after the game. Last Thursday, he decided to stay back in Ohio. Supposedly it was a friend's wedding or something, some kind of excuse he came up with, but it sounds kind of awkward since his family wasn't around. A little weird, but he's been busted. So the bigger news is what's going on this week with that. He went in and apologized individually he went into each individual position room and apologized to the players. However, he did not call the players as a collective, as a whole, to apologize to. And it's causing even more controversy in Jacksonville with the players in the locker room. He has now kind of alienated himself. The players, from what I understand, the reporting of Michael Silver earlier today is that the players actually laughed at him after he left the room. They are not on board with him. It seems like they've had a struggle with him since the beginning of the offseason, a lot of these players. And this happens when these guys come in from a college atmosphere and he spent his whole time coaching college. It gets a little tough for these guys to come in and coach the pros. Like, it's different. Like, even if you make a mistake in the college ranks, you go to your players, you tell them you're sorry, you apologize. Well, they look up to you as an adult. You're a mentor or, that adult figure to them. They're still kids, even though they're in the college age. So it's a little easier to get away with. When you go into a room of men and you don't seem very genuine about an apology and you have a lot of excuses, they're going to find that more comical than anything. And that's what we're finding out is happening. The owner came out from the Jaguars and said that he has been in communication with Urban Meyer and they have had conversations that Shad, the owner, feels is genuine and apologetic. So we'll see where it goes. I don't know. I wasn't on board with this hire. I thought it was not a good thing in the beginning. I didn't think Urban Meyer really, he's had all these coaching moments at Ohio State and at Florida and at Utah. Utah is about the only place where he really proved himself, because other than that, you go in and you have better athletes than anybody else has when you play, especially at Ohio State. Florida was really good when he was there because, again, they get these athletes. It's different when you come in the NFL, and the athletes on the other side of the field are all just as good as any athlete you can put out on the field yourself. So it's just different, and it's harder to coach for these guys. You have the list. You know the list. You've seen it over the last dozen years from Chip Kelly, Nick Saban, all the guys that are great college coaches. You see it happen all around the NFL. These guys come in from a college team, and it's just not the same. Urban Meyer, I don't like to get into this dirty stuff, but the only reason I'm getting into it is because it's affecting the team and the environment of Jacksonville. So we'll see how that goes and where that leads. I could see him being a one-and-done coach just because not just these actions, but he's not getting it done in the locker room with the players and really on the field. So, moving into what happened this weekend, it was the weekend that was not. We were so excited. I was so excited. I was pumped up about what we were going to see this weekend, and it didn't happen. So first, though, we're going to start with one of the closer morning games that had some juice to it, which was the Dallas Cowboys facing off against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina coming into Dallas to face these guys. We thought we'd see some fireworks here. It was kind of a sluggish game. However, the Cowboys, if you go back into what I talked about last week, did exactly what I'm talking about, and they ran the football. They let their run game dictate the game, and that is what paid off the most for the Cowboys. So they were here, let's say, a few times in the earlier weeks. They were going into a lot of passes, a lot of passing downs. However, if you look at it this week, Dak Prescott doesn't throw a ton of passes. He hits the ones he needs to hit. However, Zeke runs for over 140 yards. Pollard runs for over 60 yards. And they get it done, and they have this balanced running offense that I've been talking about from them that they need to do, because if you need Dak to win the game for you later in the game, he's going to do it. He has the chance to do it. Let's say that. And, it's the NFL, so it's not going to mean it's automatic. But he does have the chance to do it. So you should really rely on that run game, and it proved this week because, look, Carolina's defense has been great against the run. They've had a really good defense going. So for the Cowboys to come out, put up that yardage on running, 200 yards rushing, that's very impressive. They got it done. Zeke gets in the end zone. It's great. Good for them. Zeke ran a little bit wild. He got his yards. This is what they're supposed to do. So looking at the score, it ends up 36-28. Cowboys run. The plus minus of the game was 51.5, so the over took it at 64. So if you bet the over, you got this one easy. It was in the bag fairly early, maybe even starting the fourth quarter. I think it was already covered. Dallas, they were depending on what site you were on, 4.5 to 5.5 point favorite. They win by 8, so they cover the spread. They were a plus on the money line. They were a plus 175 to 190, depending on what site you're on, gambling, whatever you're doing, making your bets. The money line ran at plus 175 to plus 190, depending where you're at. Dallas takes that if you bet Dallas on the money line. It was a good game. It was great to see Cowboys running the football. You can't be mad at Carolina, though. Sam Darnold came out. He threw for 301 yards, had a couple touchdowns, ran for a couple touchdowns again. So he's almost like the new Cam Newton, because he's one of the highest running and rushing and scoring quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and it's Sam Darnold. Is that crazy or what? It's not Kyler. Well, Kyler Murray and these guys are up there, but Sam Darnold being up there with those guys is incredible. So he had his game. He did his job. The 2 turnovers, as you look at this being a 8-point game, really cost them his 2 interceptions. So, he's got to pick that up. Moving on into the next game, we had Browns versus Vikings, and this was a friggin' snoozer. It was a snoozer. This was supposed to be a highlighted game of the weekend. I was excited about seeing. This is one of my favorite morning games. I was super excited. It ended up as one of the worst quarterback battles I've seen in a long time. Baker Mayfield only throws for 155 yards. Kirk Cousins throws for only 202 yards. Ridiculously not good. Not good. Terrible quarterback play. One of the worst quarterback play games against 2 quarterbacks. Sometimes you get it from one, but this was horrible from both. Cousins did it worse. Absolutely incredible. Cousins did it worse. Somehow he threw for 50 more yards almost than Baker, but he does it worse. He had worse stat line. He only had a 10% QBR rating. Now, Baker wasn't much better. I think Baker had like a 20-something, somewhere around there, something like that. But Kirk Cousins out-duels for the worst quarterback play of the day in the Browns. Vikings, not good. 14-7, Browns end up taking this one. It was a snoozer. The Vikings kept having chances at the end. However, Kirk Cousins could not get it done. Very sad from both quarterbacks. If you watch this game, neither one was finding the open receiver. They had receivers open, and I don't mean downfield. I mean short checkdowns, and they kept both looking for guys medium to deep, and they were getting sacked or having to flush out of the pocket, throw the ball away. It was terrible, but there were so many times they threw the ball away, and you look over here, and there's a back or a tight end or just a check down receiver standing on the sideline wide open from both guys. It was bad. So this, I hope they get better. This game, you had plus minus was, or over under was 51.5. So obviously this went way under. It was 21 points under that. So it was never going to get there in the first place. After you could see it started from the first quarter on, it was who wanted to be the worst quarterback play of the day. And that stinks. I love seeing when guys come out and duel, but this was not a duel. This was a duel in another manner. It really was. It was sad. But going into it, Cleveland was -1 on the spread to even on some places that you gambled. And they get the 7-point win, so they broke the spread, or, since it was an even on some of the sites, what are you going to do? Money line, Cleveland was a -111 to a -115, again, depending on what site you're on. So, again, you could have won some money here, but the unfortunate thing about this was supposed to be an exciting game. I was pumped up for it. This is one of those games that could be a battle. Even a defensive battle would have been nice, but it wasn't a defensive battle. It was really just bad quarterback play. Now, there was some good defensive plays, obviously, and the defense did their jobs, and the Browns have a good defense, and the Vikings have a good defense from week to week. You never know which one you're going to get from them. However, this was not that. It was not this defensive battle that was exciting. It was just bad quarterback play. And we've got to see better from both guys if either one of these teams want to compete as they move forward. Moving into the next game, another one, the afternoon started. Super excited we're going, oh my God, the afternoon games are starting. These are going to be incredible. And we moved into the Arizona Cardinals at the Los Angeles Rams, and we thought this is going to be amazing. And no, because let me tell you something. I give Arizona Cardinals a lot of credit here. They really, really scouted and shut down this Rams offense. The Rams offense has been killing people on these crossing routes deep. So they like to roll the pocket. Maybe let's say they roll the pocket to the right. Then they like to have the deep post come over the top of the safeties, and they like to hit that deep. That's where they get tons of big plays from. The Cardinals shut it down, even got a pick off of Stafford early in the game, which is what caused mass problems in this game. Kyler Murray did his job, but this was more about how the Cardinals defense actually shut down the Rams, even though the Cardinals offense did its job and scored 37 points. It was an A.J. Green game. He was the one who got it going, had a touchdown, and then a guy I talked about last week in the prep for this game was a tight end that's up and coming, and he had been at Baltimore before and he had done some things there, but they had run into who they have now there, and in Mark Andrews, and so he was kind of out, and he'd had some injuries, and now here he is back, and he's playing healthy, and the Cardinals are using him. He put up good points for them 2 weeks in a row as a fantasy player. So if you're looking at somebody, Max Williams, MAXX, XX Williams, he's the man to go get if you need a tight end, and he's on a waiver wire because they're using him, and they're targeting him. Targets are what are important when you go to fantasy football. That's what's important. Doesn't matter if your receiver catches all of them. If they're throwing him the ball, then you should be excited about that. And if it's happening in a multiple game span, you know that the quarterback's trusting that guy. So looking at this game, 37-20, Rams get shut down. Some of their players, Woods had a better week than he's had in a while, about 14 fantasy points. Kupp didn't blow it away, but you're not going to be mad at a guy who puts out 11 or 12 points during a game in a PPR league. You can't be mad at him. He's just put up, he's over 100 points in 4 weeks. You can't be mad at that. but it just wasn't the week for them. This Cardinals defense had it figured out. They shut them down. They shut that big play over the top down, and that's how this worked out. The spread, well, the over-under was 54, so they barely beat on the over. They get 57 points combined through the teams. Rams, during this game, were a -3.5 to a -6. That's a big difference going through different sites. That's where you're looking at in this game, so depending on what site you're on. However, it doesn't matter because Arizona won by 17 points, so the Rams could not cover the spread. And if you took the Cardinals, you win. And if you take them on the money line, you got a plus 175. Here's another big gap between sites is you had Arizona at plus 175 on the low and a plus 240 on the high if you took the money line for the Cardinals to win. And they did. And they proved that they have what it takes to play in this division. And here we go. One of the greatest divisions. It's going to happen every week, and it happened this week. These guys balled out. The defense showed up. The offense showed up. And they had a great, great game plan against this team. It's going to be interesting the next time they play in Arizona how much the Rams switch it up from what they like to do now that Stafford's there. Now, moving into the other dudes in this division, you have Seahawks, Niners. They know what they're doing, right? We thought, here's another possible exciting game. Well, Garoppolo gets hurt before the end of the first half, doesn't come back out and play after halftime. Trey Lance comes in, does some things. It took him a little while. He struggled during the game. He didn't really come out and impress and do this huge, opening drive or something like that where everybody was so, this rookie is going to be the next amazing thing, which is what he went number 3 overall, and the 49ers traded a boatload for. So we'll see where he moves along. He did hit Deebo Samuel for a 76-yard touchdown, which is probably a really good thing in the scope of things. However, Deebo Samuel was standing wide open. I don't know where the Seahawks were. I think they went to all have some coffee or Gatorade on the sideline because if you watch the replay, there's nobody ever close to him. Never seen a player that wide open and just kind of snoozing on the sideline deep down the sideline. Lance hits him. He goes 76 yards. End of story. This one, we thought we were going to get a wild, exciting game again. It wasn't that wild and exciting, even though the score and the final score is 28-21. It was not that exciting. Again, as the build-up happened through the day for the afternoon of football games that we were excited to see this week, it didn't work out in the manner that we thought it would work out. But that's okay. So, here we are, 28-21. This one could have been better. Russell Wilson has very limited passing yards, doesn't even get to 200. The rush was terrible. Okay, you had both backs, Chris Carson and, busting off my brain here. Anyway, both backs had about 10 to 12 carries. Nobody bust out over 50 yards. Very sad. Carson only had about 30, and Collins, that's the guy I'm looking for in my mind here, only had I think about 45, 46, 47, somewhere around there. So they don't get it done. They don't even get 100 yards. Now with Russell Wilson, they got close to 100 yards because I think he had about 26 or something rushing. Just wasn't their game, and they still won the game. So that shows you how bad it went once Garoppolo went out. Everybody was mad at Garoppolo, and they said, Lance should be the guy. And I know Lance came in, and they made it a salvageable game because they were down bigger. But their defense finally stood up, held the Seahawks to 28 points, and that's where they were for a long time. So the defense did their job to help their offense get back in the game. They just couldn't get it done. 28-21 is the Seahawks win. The over-under was 52. So obviously on this one, the under wins with 49 points total scored. So if you bet the under, you got it. I could have seen with 52 points on the up there, I could have gone either way with that one. That's a tough one to bet on the over-under because, again, you didn't know what was going to show up. These are two teams that sometimes their defenses ball out and don't let any points, and sometimes the defenses look average, let's say, especially the Seahawks side. So 52 didn't get covered, so it's under 40 at 49. The spread, San Francisco is actually 2.5 to 3.5 points on the favorite side. On most sites that you see, that was about the average, between 2.5 and 3.5. Seattle breaks it anyway because Seattle wins by 7, so it doesn't matter if you tried to have the 49ers beat the spread there. Money line was Seahawks would get you a plus 114 to a plus 160 on some sites. How this differential happens on different sites is crazy to me, but that's how it was. So if I was on the site, I'd be really happy if I won my 160 over my 140. That's such a, I mean, we have a $46 difference. That's a big difference in a money line. So that one's over. Moving along into the game that was supposed to be the game of the century. We were all ready for it, right? We were so excited. It was the Brady return to Gillette Stadium, and the Belichick and the Gronk was supposed to play, and Gronk didn't play, and then Brady and Mac Jones, the next suitor, and Belichick, and it fizzled out. It was not exciting whatsoever. It was great to see. It was great to see when Brady broke Drew Brees' all-time passing yards record, and they stopped the game. We did a ball, blah, blah, blah. That was about the biggest excitement of the game. However, if you're a Patriots fan, you got Brady'd because that's what he does. And if you look at the stats of this game, it was 22 of 43 for Brady, 269, didn't have a touchdown or an interception. He was 51% completion. I mean, it wasn't this amazing game. He was only at 55 QBR, right? But he got it done. He did what Brady does. It was a slow-moving game, and what's he do? He gets the ball every time they need it. He drives them down. They get a field goal to go ahead. Mac Jones did his job, so you got to give the rookie credit. However, he was 31 of 40 for only 275 yards. He did have 2 passing TDs, but he threw a pick. Now, his completion percentage was off the charts at 77.5. However, Collinsworth and Al Michaels were going so crazy about his 19 in a row passes, but there was I would give probably 14 of those passes didn't pass 4 yards down the field. I got it. He did good. He hit the receiver he's supposed to. The checkdowns, they weren't going to let that rookie beat him deep, have one of these big plays happen, and that's what the Bucs did on defense. However, it made for a really snoozer game on the excitement that was built up. It's like one of those Super Bowls, if you're old enough to remember, when the Chargers played the 49ers and it was over at the end of the first quarter. It was like 28-0 in the first quarter. And we went, well, that was a really exciting Super Bowl. That's kind of how this game went, except there wasn't any excitement on either side. It was just the build-up, and I think there was a big letdown. However, we appreciated it. It was great to see Brady come back. If you saw his video today that he put out on Instagram and social media, he's smiling from ear to ear, baby. Smiling from ear to ear about that win. Didn't matter. Got it done. It wasn't some amazing stats-filled touchdown throwing game, but it's funny how the universe works out, and he gets to go back to New England, and while he's there, now control the all-time passing yards, and he'll own it from this moment on for a while, until we see another quarterback play 30 years. So he's going to have that. He's got it. It was exciting to see. This one, again, scored 19-7. The Bucs beat the Pats. And, again, I talked about this going into the game. I knew that it was going to be a struggle for Brady. Everybody thought it was going to be this high-powered thing, him coming in, or maybe they dominate the Patriots because he's all pumped up. But you got to remember, Belichick, he's been with Brady his whole entire life. McDaniels, most of his coaching career in the NFL has been with Brady. Again, Belichick, every season that Brady played except for the last two, those guys sat in a room and talked and talked and talked, and they sat in quarterback rooms and they sat in meetings and they went over how things were supposed to look and checked. He knew, they knew. You know, Belichick's son is coaching the defense there now. These guys know Tom Brady so well. I knew it was going to happen because the defense was going to be so well prepared. And you've got to remember, a lot of that defense has set and practiced against Brady. And so they've run scout team defense against how the offense is going to get run through Brady and the checks that are going to be made and all that. These guys knew what was going to come. It wasn't going to be a blowout. These guys are too well coached and knew too much about Brady. So, and that's what happened. So look at this, 19-17. The over-under was 49, so obviously way under, 13 points under. So if you picked the under, you got that. Tampa Bay on the spread, -6.5 to -7. Again, depending on where you were, Tampa Bay only wins by 2, so they don't cover the spread. So if you took the Pats, you got the money on that one if you took the Pats and the points. The money line, Tampa Bay was a +220 to anywhere to a 260, again, depending where you're at or what you like to gamble on. However, the Bucs win, and Brady gets his win at home, and that's all that mattered to him. And his homecoming, he gets it done. And there was some devastation. It was really weird, awkward, some moments. Everybody, the hug after the game from Belichick, that was kind of more of a cold shoulder hug, and everybody took offense to that. However, Belichick, from all reports, went and spent 20 or 30 minutes alone with Brady after the game. They sat and talked for 20 or 30 minutes, probably until the team got ready to leave. So don't get me wrong, these guys love and respect each other no matter what drama you've heard, especially through the media over the years. There's a lot of love and respect there. Now into the Monday Night Takedown. What happened here? Well, we were looking for more excitement last night, and we were like, yes, we got some excitement. And the beginning of the game, and then, of course, there's a lightning delay inside a dome, which was nuts to everybody, including John Gruden, who looked up and said, we are in an effing dome. And then they went back to the locker room. So, it started out a little sluggish. Chargers started on fire. Herbert looks good with every weapon you could imagine. A lot of quarterbacks are going to look good. I'm not taking away from Herbert. He knows what he's doing. He looked good. Derek Carr did the Derek Carr things last night that people were wondering at the beginning of the game. They kept talking about, is Derek Carr the guy? Is he going to be the guy? How come Gruden doesn't see him as the guy? Well, he showed a lot of that last night because he played a game where, again, there was wide open receivers, not deep, not medium range, but underneath, check down guys, he only stares down his number one receiver. And when he gets in that mode, he does not get out of it. When he gets in the mode of throwing to his first look, he sometimes gets stuck in that for an entire game. And he was there last night. He was not reading the field, and that's what happened. And he took a lot of unnecessary sacks again, and he made a lot of unnecessary, throw the ball away when he had guys to check down to, or even when he had check downs, he made bad throws. And when it was important, he didn't make the plays last night. And that's the reason that Gruden and a lot of the people inside there have always questioned what he is. Because, again, he had 2 really good games. He had an average game. And then this was kind of a bad game. So in the end, right now, he's just stringing just above average if you look at the 4 games in the way that he's been playing. Now, his stats are different, and he looks good stat-wise, but as far as decision-making and playmaking, he's had good game, bad game, and then if you look even at the Dolphins game, he had really bad half, or really bad quarter, good quarter, average quarter, a little below average quarter. Like, that's how he went in the Dolphins game, and that's been his problem, is there's not a consistency. If you look across the line at Herbert, does he have a bad game here and there? He did last year as a rookie. He has not yet this season. He's played well pretty much every game. He's given his team a chance to win or won the game. And it's just consistency. If you can't be consistent at the quarterback position, these guys, especially like John Gruden, who loves to go through quarterbacks left and right, will not stick with you. He does not care how long of a tenure you've had at the place you're at. And they always talk about how him and Carr can sit in these rooms and chat about football. Well, that's great, but he's not going to put up with, again, just the inconsistencies from quarter to quarter that come with what Carr can give you sometimes, and that's what happens. So 14 points only scored by the Raiders. In the end, they could have even maybe had a chance, but again, just really lackluster play from Carr when it mattered most in the fourth quarter. And 28 points, Chargers get it. 28-14 in LA. The stadium was all Raiders yelling and screaming at the beginning, it was like the second coming of the black hole. That dissipated as the game went on. You finally started to hear some Chargers fans as the game moved on. So 51.5 was the over-under. Under wins the day with only 42 points scored. Spread, Chargers were -3, so they cover the spread. If you took Chargers to cover, they did it by 11 points as they score 14. If they win by 14 points, they cover the spread by 11. Money line. Chargers plus 145 to plus 155. Again, depending where you went to place your bets. And if you covered on the money line there, you chose the Chargers. There you go. You were a plus 145 or plus 155. Meaning, if you put $100 down, you didn't win a lot. But no, you'd have to bet $145 just to win $100. So there you go. That's what that looks like. That's how the money line works. If you bet $155, on that site, you would have won $155 if you bet $100. So, well, it would have taken $155 to win $100. Let's say that. That's the bet. So that's how a money line works. If you don't understand that, again, if it's plus, you have to bet that amount of money to win $100. So in this case, $145 bet will win you $100. If it's a minus, let's say it was minus 145, you have to bet $100 and you would have won more money. Do you see how that works? So you would have won 145 if it was a minus. So you flip it. So you have to bet the 145 if it's plus to win $100. If it's a minus, you have to bet $100 to win 145. And that's how that works on the money line, just in case you're wondering. Now, getting into the rest of our games, we had Jaguars, Bengals last Thursday night ended 24-21 before Urban Meyer decided to go clubbing. And that's about it. Trevor Lawrence actually looked a lot better last week. He's kind of moving up the charts as a rookie quarterback because he understands the speed of the game. This is what happens. So I've explained for a few weeks about young and rookie quarterbacks. You've got to get him in the flow, and he's getting in the flow. He's looking better. The Jaguars as a whole with their coaching staff don't look better. Colts, Dolphins. Dolphins look like the exact opposite team that showed up last year. They led the league in turnover differential, and they were not making penalties. And this year, they just stink in all those categories. Can't get off the field on third down. They were one of the top in the league last year. Can't get off the field, turn the ball over. They don't win, and that's why the Colts win 27-17 this game, because not only that, the Dolphins had momentum early in the game. They don't have a killer instinct. They only get 3 points in the time that they could have been up 10-17 to 20-0. They don't do it. They don't know how to do it. They have no instinct of go get the kill. One of the most exciting games of the week that nobody expected to be one of the exciting games of the week. Giants, Saints in New Orleans, goes to overtime. Giants work it into overtime. They get the ball in overtime. Barkley breaks it and wins the game. 27-21 Giants. Jameis Winston not getting it done. They're not letting him throw the ball. They don't trust him. So how long does it last there with him, or how long can they just not win not trusting him. You've got to do one or the other. You've got to see what you've got in him, but he barely throws the ball this week, and they don't win anyway. So next game was Chiefs-Eagles. Chiefs and Eagles, it could have been a good game, but the Eagles defense, again, you just don't know which one you're going to get each week. One week they're great, the next week they're not. One week they're average, the next week they're good. So you just don't know who's going to show up on that defensive side of the ball. This is a tough team to play as the Chiefs, especially if you don't face these guys. The Eagles don't really face these type of offenses much. So except for the Cowboys, and that showed in these last two games, right? Chiefs, Cowboys with these high-powered receivers. The Eagles have struggled. So they move on. Now, the shocker of the weekend that everybody was blown away that happened, the New York Jets take out the Titans in overtime. Now, I've never seen anything like this. I know it went to overtime, and the Titans shouldn't have been in that position anyway. Jets played a good game, but that's what the Titans do. A lot of times they go on the road and they play down to another team's level. The Titans do it this week. They play down to a level. Not only that, then it gets in overtime, and if you saw this in overtime, I've never seen a team, it was like they were playing for the tie. The Titans get the ball over the 50, and they like lacklusterly go down the field. They're running clock. Like it matters. It's overtime. You're not trying to run the clock out. The other team can't come down and kick a field goal. That doesn't matter if you're going to kick a field goal. Who cares? She should be playing for the win. And then it was like they were playing for the tie. Run the clock out and kick the field goal. And in the end, karma bites them in the butt. They missed the field goal. Game over. Jets win. As the Titans tried to play for a tie, getting the ball with like 5 minutes left in overtime. And then running out the clock, basically. Never seen it before. It was really bad. Can't believe the Titans blew this one, but they did. Shocker. Congrats to the Jets on their first win. And Zach Wilson, way to go. Way to hang in there. There you go. Bears, Lions. Nobody was super excited about this except for the fact that Fields was going to get the start again. He proved better this week. Right, but it's the Lions. Again, here's a team you don't know what you're going to get. They came out and balled. The defense kind of balled against Lamar Jackson last week. Not so much against Fields this week. Fields did a lot better than he did the week before. Again, young quarterback. It usually takes him 3, 4, 5 games to even start to get a decent feel. And we'll see where that goes. As Nagy says, Dalton is still the starter when he comes back from injury, which could be this week. So who knows? See where it goes. Not going to get into it too deep there because Nagy just likes to play with all of our emotions in this quarterback thing. Bills, Texans, nothing to talk about. 40-0. Texans came out like they might give themselves a chance. And after about halfway through the first quarter, everybody knew that they are who they thought we were, they are who we thought they were. And the Texans are the Texans, and they put up a blank, especially with Davis Mills. I know people were talking about him, and I know he's got this talent, and he's got a lot to, and he's showing that. He's got a lot to bring around, and he didn't do it this game. Not even close. Tough defense to do that against, and he didn't do it. Another one that got close that some people thought wouldn't be close, but might be close, and that's Redskins and Falcons. Again, just like I said last week, in the predictions, don't worry, Matt Ryan or the Falcons, their MO over the last few years is to do something stupid and lose the game. They had the lead, and they lost the lead as the fourth quarter moved along. Somehow they blow it, but that's what they've been doing for years, ever since the 28-3 Super Bowl that they blew. They've really been kind of just buckled into that mindset, I guess. And then you had Ravens, Broncos, even though we got a Seahawks helmet there. Not sure how that happened. But we got Ravens, Broncos. Ravens win 23-7. This one, Teddy Bridgewater goes down. We're not sure how long he's out. Locke will get the start if he doesn't. Obviously, the game didn't look good during that after Bridgewater went out. And, yeah, Locke, it didn't seem like he was super prepared to play in the first place. So we'll see how it goes this week if he prepares and does better. However, that's a guy that's confidence might be knocked down, but he gets himself, if he gets a week to prove it, then he better step up and prove it because that's what you got to do. Now, last game we got was Steelers, Packers. This one could have been a lot better. The score is wrong there. The Packers should have been able to blow them away. But, yeah, the score we have on the screen is not close. But these guys, the game wasn't close. Just Ben Roethlisberger. And this is why I want to talk about this as the last game. Ben Roethlisberger, he just looks like the age and the body has caught up to him. He's had a lot of injuries over his career, legs, arms, shoulders, and it just looks like it may not be his body as much because he is making throws, but it just looks like maybe mentally he's at the end, and that offensive line doesn't help. Pouncey retiring last year doesn't help. And not having these guys be able to check into these plays doesn't help. And it doesn't look good in Pittsburgh right now, and I'm not sure what their plan is. If they're going to try Haskins at some point, because you can't just go into next offseason hoping Haskins is it. Maybe it's that year that Ben doesn't get it done. They throw in Haskins later in the season, and they get an early round draft pick, and they get to do it. Maybe this is the year that happens. Maybe they get their franchise quarterback in this next draft. I know people in Pittsburgh aren't used to that. None of us are used to that in the NFL because you're not used to the Steelers being that far down the chain. But this might be the year they get their backup quarterback. And with that, that's how I'm going to leave it and end it today. Don't forget, get over to Twitter. Follow at Gridiron Grubb on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're going to get Inside the 10. Will be coming out this week on Friday. You'll get inside 10-minute breakdowns and forecasts of each game from the weekend. Spotify, get over there. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the channels. 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget. Don't forget. And with that, I'm out. Peace.